I'm the creator of Yolang. I don't know if most people here have heard of it. So Yolang is a Yoruba programming language. Basically, that's what it is. It made wave on Twitter around the end of last year. People were quite excited to have a programming language in their native tongue. So what I want to talk about today is teaching our mother tongue and why Yolang is more than programming. So I'm making a very big assumption here that everyone here knows what programming is. Okay. So anyways, if you don't know what programming is, basically it's how we write instructions for the computer. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people here will know what programming is. And so there are major barriers when we work with programming languages that might not be obvious when you are really good at it, but they are quite obvious when you're starting out. And that's what I'm going to be treating in this subject. Now, if you've worked with a programming language before, sorry, I'm not sure I'm pressing the right button. Are my slides up? Yeah? Okay. All right. So if you've worked with the programming language before, you've probably built some things with it. Probably built an Android app. You've probably built a web app, probably an iOS app, a desktop app. I know I have. And when you're starting out, you probably work with a bunch of programming languages. You work with Java, you work with Go, you work with PHP, you work with Python. You can continue to name it. Like, there are a host of them out there, right? And you know the power that is in this programming language. You probably felt cool when you started, right? You felt like a genius because you just wrote that Hello World program, and it made you feel really nice. But the thing is, do you know that programming languages can also be used for something that is just more than technical things? That it's not just about wearing a hoodie and you're that cool guy that everybody's talking about. And that's what Yolang strives to do. Yolang is a programming language that is making a cultural statement, right? It's not supposed to be your new web API language where you start writing your backend services or your front end, whatever in it, but it's making a cultural statement. And there's a reason for that, right? You might think, why? Why do we need something like that? So the reason is there's this culture in tech, and when a lot of people think about it, if you ask someone that doesn't know what programming is, like, would you like to learn programming? They'll probably say no. And then if you show them a sample program, they'll be like, this thing is not for me. Your screen is just black. And the movies are not even helping. Because they show somebody wearing a hoodie and it's typing all too fast, and it's done. And the person is like, geez, I can't do this thing. It's too hard, right? But when you get to relate with that thing that you feel is too hard in your mother tongue, if you are the kind of person that relates better in your mother tongue, that's how I am. Outside of these walls, I speak Yoruba. That's like the first thing that comes to my head. So, and I'm not ashamed of that anyways. So if you're the kind of person that thinks in that way, that basically does everything in that way, then when you're starting out with the programming language, it can be a bit challenging when you're looking at this syntax that already looks hard because it's written in some special format. And you're looking at it in another language, you see that var keyword and you're like, okay, what is this? Then you just can't relate at the go. And you hit a major block, the next thing you want to do is just stop. So I'll tell you a short story when I started. I started in 2012. And when I first started, I was writing this thing. It was looking cool. I was interested. And I got to one part that is called an array. And it looked confusing. I just didn't know what it was. I didn't feel like continuing. And I stopped. Like, literally, I stopped. I stopped writing code. And then I came back in 2014. Then I guess my English was now better. So arrays is now something that is not so hard anymore. So that's just the point I'm trying to make. That's the reason why Yolang exists, right? I would have, okay, thank you. Where am I supposed to point this thing? Okay. Sorry? Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. I still know. All right, thanks. Okay. So am I? Yeah? Okay, to the screen. I see. See? Programmers are not very smart, so. Okay, it's still not working. All right. So here's where I am at, right? Programming language is mostly designed so both humans and machines can read instructions, often contain keywords from natural languages. That's what I was talking about earlier. So most of the programming languages you've probably used, if you've used one before, they contain really basic keywords, if you think about it. Like the rest are just, I don't know, like libraries or whatever. And you have this stuff called probably a var. You have this thing called an if, an else. That one is pretty easy for you to understand when you're starting out. You have this thing called probably a switch. You have that stuff called a function. And then you start to think like, a function, okay? Like, what does that really mean? Then you have that thing called an array. That was where I just stopped, like, God, I'm not doing this again. And you have other concepts like that, and it goes on and on. Not that they are hard, but you're having to relate in the language you don't normally think in, right? And that's the major problem. So I'm going to just walk us through a story. So I was going to walk you through a story of a person. Think of the person as Shegun, right? Shegun just wants to start learning programming. He's never heard of programming before. It's a concept he heard from a friend that we're like, okay, it's cool. I'm going to try it out. And Shegun understands English. Now, don't get this wrong, right? The point we're trying to say here is not that you will not know English if you want to write code or that it's possible. That's not possible, right? So the point we are trying to say is that when you want to get started, right, you might struggle if you don't normally think in English on a day-to-day basis, right? And because of that struggle, you tend to hold back and you don't want to move forward with it anymore. And when you don't start and you don't move forward with it anymore, then there's no point. That's one more programmer that we could have had that is no longer doing it anymore and is probably doing something else, right? So yeah, thank you very much. You guys are doing a great job. So yeah, Shegun's just started learning programming. He's struggling with the English-based context. And look at his face. The guy is all moody. Like, what is this? I don't understand an array. I'm guessing Shegun is me anyways, because that was how I felt when I started. But later, Shegun discovered, the next slide, please. I think I need like a big sound or whatever. Yeah, he discovered Yolang, right? And he's all smiley face now, right? And he found it easier to understand programming, not because Yolang was teaching it programming, but because he realized that, oh, these cool concepts that they're all shouting about is really not hard. Oh, a while loop is just nigbati. An if statement is just share something is something, tabi. Okay, like this thing is really not hard. We can do this thing. And he gets more interested. And once he realizes that, oh, this thing is not so hard and it feels natural, then he decides to put in more energy into what he's doing. And he learns and he moves forward and he continues to make more progress, right? Next slide, please. Now, this is not to say, obviously, we can't get ahead of ourselves like, oh, there's this new programming language. You don't need to write any Java or anything like that. No. Like, Yolang is not a commercial language. God forbid I see anybody writing a web API in it. But the thing is, it's just there to break that barrier when you want to start. That barrier that makes you feel that programming is just for cool kids. Like, if you must be a programmer, then you must be a nerd. You must put on that hoodie. You must not talk too much, you know. You must just be to yourself. That's how they do. There's this stereotype that the movies have put in our minds about programmers. And you're like, I'm not very smart. My GPA is like 3.4 or 2 point whatever. I can't do this thing. You don't have to be a genius to write code. Like an average intellect will do, right? It's not a criteria. There's nothing you actually do that you don't put in the work to get better at. It's not like, for example, writing this programming language is not because I'm a genius. It's not. I probably read a bunch of stuff and copied a bunch of code somewhere, put everything together, and then I made something. And everybody's like, oh, this thing is cool. So you don't have to be a genius. It's something everyone can do. And what Yolang is just trying to show is that it's really just the same thing you think of every day. It's not hard. You're just basically just setting instructions. You know, when your mom is about to leave the house, like once you've done this, I feel tempted to speak Yoruba. Once you've done this, right, then complete this one. After you are done with that one, go and do this one. After you are done with that one, then you can move on to that one. That's basically what we do when we write code. We are just setting instructions. When you've completed this, go on to that one. After you have done this, go and do that one. If this is still being done, okay, you can quickly jump on that one. That's really what we are doing. The same kind of instructions that our mom passes off to us. And the only difference here is that we have a computer that is just doing that thing really fast. And we are like, oh, this thing is cool. Next slide, please. Now, when Yolang came out, a bunch of people were saying how it really affected them. Now, people were happy to see it, not because they want to start writing Yolang, but it just helped them to relate with something they already know or something they were struggling with in a language that is natural. And that just goes to show that language is very important in everything. If we allow our languages to enter the technological sphere, then they will have more vocabularies, for example. Like, for example, what's the Yoruba word for software? Right? You don't know, right? The best I've heard of it is probably a Toishishe computer. Like, it's a long word. Imagine, just software. Right? What's the Yoruba word for array? When I was trying to write Yolang, I couldn't come up with something. It was so hard. Because our languages are not involved in the technological sphere, they are having limited vocabularies. But the more we involve them in the technological sphere, their vocabularies will grow. And that's why in most cases when we're talking about technology in Yoruba, for example, we usually have to explain it to talk about the word. And that's the example I've given here with software. We'll say eto isise computer. You know, we don't have P in Yoruba, it's P. Put that in mind. So somebody said, funny enough, just by going through Yolang, I'm learning more Yoruba. And that's an Igbo guy. It just shows that there was a guy that was writing some code in Yolang. He's an Igbo guy, and this was like reverse learning for him. His name is Kelechi. That what he did was, he would try and write code in Yolang, and then he would understand better Yoruba. Not because Yolang had, this is a verb in Yoruba or something like that. But just by doing something he already loves, and is looking at it in a natural language, it just felt easier. And the guy actually contributed to Yolang a lot. And it's not even in his mother's tongue. Now imagine how much more we that we are Yorubas, or any Yoruba that is here anyway. Someone else also said that he was trying to solve a statistical problem, right? And he said to himself, like, I wish someone could teach me this thing in Yoruba. And this just proves the point I've been trying to talk about all day. Like, the point is not that you don't write English or you don't speak English well. Like, we really need to stop that. Like, if you're speaking Yoruba, then you must be a dullard. It's not. It's not true. Right? The point is that this person will just feel that thing better. Now, he doesn't expect every statistical material in the world to be converted to Yoruba for him to move ahead, right? But this particular concept is struggling. And he just needs something he can easily relate with. And if he gets that kind of thing, he'll probably understand better. Then someone else said, I really believe that dynamic languages like Yolang are how to get more people into write software. Now, the reason why I use that is because Yolang is not, I'm still going to talk about the future of Yolang anyway. So it's not supposed to replace any of the programming languages you already use at all. You're not even supposed to really write it like that. What it's just trying to do is to show you that this thing is not hard if you're trying to get started. This thing can be done. You don't require genius level intellect. And it's to make mockery of programming. It's just what we say every day. Well, in a sense, anyway. Next slide, please. So someone on Twitter tweeted this, and I thought it's really funny. So the person was talking about what she envisions Yolang's future to be. She said, hopefully, Yolang will be modern enough not to reject commands typed with the left hand. If you're a Yoruba person, you get that joke. I thought it was really funny anyways. I think we should clap for her. Well, and someone else came up with something really funny too. You know all this, your Habija and whatever. Person puts a silly horn on top of the person's head and said this is what will happen when programmers start writing web APIs in Yoruba. They will look like they are fighting war. Which is true, obviously, because we can't be writing our real software. We can't write the blockchain if you're just talking about it in your language. Anyways, the next slide, please. So to cap it all off, really, Yolang is more of a creative expression of my heart more than it is a new tool, right? It's more of a creative expression of my heart. I feel like, I'm not ashamed to say this anywhere, I feel like if English is your first language, if that's what you understand best, fine. This probably doesn't make any sense to you. But I grew up in a Yoruba area. My parents spoke to Yoruba to me morning, day, night. They still do. Still my parents anyways. I speak Yoruba like all the time. I even read my Bible in Yoruba every day. Right? So that's like the default thing I think in. If you come to me and speak to me and you say Yoruba first, I'm not speaking English with you again. We are just speaking Yoruba. That's what it is. But it doesn't mean I'm stupid. It doesn't mean I'm a dullard. It doesn't mean if you speak Yoruba, you can't be good at what you do. Right? And it doesn't mean that your speaking Yoruba limits the opportunities you can have. Right? We've already said this before, that yes, you need to learn English to be a successful programmer. Like, it's impossible. The tools we have, they are in English. The documentation you will read, they are in English. The helps you will get, they are in English. It's impossible. Like, you really do need to learn English. But this is just to say that while you are learning with a foreign tongue, if you're like me, that thing is not hard. And if you try to think about our concepts that you're finding difficult in your mother's tongue, you'll probably find it easier to understand. So that is what it is, really. It's more of a creative expression of my heart than it is in you two. The next slide, please. So if you want to try out Yolang, right, you can Google it. Like, all the pages will probably be in Yolang. Just YORLANG. You'll see the documentation. About over 1,181 people have tried out Yolang. Not that they're writing anything meaningful. They just play around with it. And it's fun. Well, if you think programming is fun anyways. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you, everyone.